Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda and order of business. There are so many changes to it that I don't want to make anymore, but if anybody has anything you want to add, there's time. Tina?
Thank you. Oath and a vote in my district, please.
Vote and a vote in time permits.
Fair enough.
Just kidding.
Anything else?
I'll move the approved agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved by Sharon and seconded by Floyd, and that's because Pam is downstairs because she's not well particularly, and state who did it.
Oh,
Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. I say not well, she's got a bit of a cold. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam, for not.
Coming up here with us. There is no public input, as I understand it. So we're on to the minutes of the previous meeting, October 27th. Errors or omissions.
I'll move the approved minutes.
Second.
There was one question on the minutes, and I'm just looking for it, about the Kitty Forestry matter
Yes.
and about what they were asking. I think there's something in the minutes, I can't put my finger on it now, but they're asking us to grant a right of way. They're asking us to appoint a commissioner. I believe.
That's correct.
I believe, if I could find it in the minutes,
It says right, appointed right away.
where would it be? Sorry, I just thought it was important to make that clarification. Maybe it's been changed since I read the first draft.
Now it's on page 441.
And what does it say?
It says, request was to ask
I think
council to
that-
act on a section of the Municipal Government Act that allows municipality to extend the benefit of a road right of way.
Well,
It allows the
To act on
municipality
a
to extend,
section, to act on a section of the
that allows the
MGA.
municipality to extend the benefit of the right of way.
So is
I
that the
don't
section?
think that's what it actually is it?
well, they're asking us to appoint a.
Yeah, I just think that needs to be amended to reflect what the actual ask is.
Okay, so we can get some clarity. in
I
that.
think it's some clarity. I think it's important for the record.
Okay, it's moved by Sharon, seconded by Floyd. All those in favor?
As amended.
Motion. Yes, amended, carried. Okay, there are no committee reports. It's not 9:15 yet. So we're on to 7.1, second and final notice, repeal and replace regional emergency management bylaw, number 146. So we just need a motion to adopt the new bylaw.
You had previously
Yeah.
seen the amendments and approved amendments. We got notice back that it should be a full repeal and replace. So this is just going through the process of repeal and replace from what you've already approved as amendments.
Also moved.
So moved by Sharon, seconded by Abdullah. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. That was my intention. My understanding of the motion was to do both. Thank you for pointing that out, just so the motion's clear. 8.1 Municipal Government Act Consultation Survey Draft Responses.
So this is me. We received a survey, and we were asked for some input into amendments on, for the MGA. So we're just providing you with the questions and the draft responses to that. I don't know if you want me to walk through each one. Most of them have to do with electronic notices and posting, the need to post in newspapers versus electronic notices. And then there's some regarding the notice period, electronic delivery of tax receipts, and then submission of planning documents. And there's some planning questions in there as well that we provided draft answers for. So if there's any in particular that you'd like me
Do you have any issues with the draft responses?
So if we use electronic notification, are we still going to put it in the paper?
So this is just the survey questions on like whether we have any concerns about enabling us to do the electronic. I think when it comes out, we'll have flexibility
We'll
on
decide
whether we
ourselves.
still decide to do electronic or newspaper.
So do we want to submit our responses?
Yes.
Who's moving that?
Motion to submit.
Floyd, moved by Floyd, seconded by Othello. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Information report till.
Yeah, it's that time of year again. Tara and Tim developed something that we wanted to update you on.
Okay, just
So
don't see Tim, that's all.
it's okay, I think Tim is out today, so I can try. I'm
Yours.
not sure if he's out or not, but.
I didn't see him when I was downstairs.
Yeah, so we're in the process of preparing for the upcoming budget process. In the past, we've taken a couple of different approaches to budget. We've done pre-budget approval before we started the operating budget in the past. And I think last year you saw both the operating and capital together. So this year, what we're proposing, and it wasn't the impact on staff wasn't as great last year because we were in a transition period with our engineering folks who do most of our capital budget work and our tendering processes. But this year, what we're proposing is a hybrid approach. So what we're proposing to do is to bring you the capital budget and the 5-year capital plan in December. And we would have a couple of discussions. So I've outlined what those discussions would be, what those sessions would be. And the reason we're proposing to bring it and have that discussion beforehand is that it'll allow us and the engineering staff in particular to get out to tender and prepare tender documents before April. It'll allow us to get out early. So I'll just go over the process real quick, what we're proposing. I noticed that the chart didn't print very well, so I have another copy of it that I can look at here. So budget session 1 would be in November. Actually, we would do a presentation of the 5-year capital and the proposed capital budget. And we would review the budgets and the proposed phasing of projects. And at that session, we wouldn't ask for any decisions. It would be information, presentation of the budget, and what's included in it. Following that, in December, we will have a strategic priorities discussion. So a second session talking about strategic priorities. What we'll be looking for is more of the, here's your priorities. Let's make sure that everything's in the right order and that we're doing the projects and focusing on the things that council wants us to focus on. And making sure that there's nothing missing from that for the next couple of years and then in this capital year or this upcoming budget year especially. And then we would follow that up with a third session where you would have the opportunity to review the capital budget with the changes that were incorporated from our strategic planning discussion. And what we would propose is that we use a consent agenda approach. So we would have all the items in the capital budget and then council would have a chance to vote on ones that they wish to remove. And anything remaining, we would ask for pre-budget approval for. That would allow staff to get moving on those. In January and February, then you would see us coming back with, if needed, we would be coming back with more information on any of the priorities or capital projects that were removed from the pre-budget approval. And then we would have a fourth budget session where we would present the remaining capital budget items, the operating budget. We would go over the things like the gas tax, the reserves, the financial condition index. We would talk about tax rate, we would talk about the sewer rate, all the things we would normally do in the operating budget discussions. And then we would bring that back for review and approval at a final session. So that's the proposal. We just are looking for endorsement for that.
Sounds reasonable.
I think it's a good idea. That way, maybe if we approve it early enough, tenders could get out earlier the better because it's a very competitive market. No, so I support those.
I hear no objections. Somebody want to move that we approve the process?
So moved.
Second by Sharon, seconded by Abdullah. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.
Thank
Leachate treatment.
Good morning.
It's an interesting topic.
Yet again. Okay, so this again is for the leachate treatment plant upgrade project for the design portion, hoping to do this year. As you know, phase one was completed last year, or approved 2020, completed in 21. Phase two was actually approved, but due to the construction of cell B taking that precedent, we've delayed this project. So in short, a little background and quick discussion, because I know you guys know a lot about this. The Kaiser Metal landfill, of course, is a second generation landfill, and on site we have our pumping station, equalization lagoon, recirculating filters, EDC system, aerated fluid, etc. So last year, and we've attached the report, we have a full report from last summer with a thorough explanation when we went through looking at different alternative solutions, looking at our leachate strengths and permit requirements and things like that, and any limitations. So attach that as a little reminder there. So as you know, leachate keeps going and we keep getting it. So it's an ongoing requirement for the facility, both during operation and long-term for post-closure. So our operating permit does require us to have this in place. And the design has been approved by MSE. So we're trying to keep in line with that. So the original assessment that was conducted with the intention, cell 4A was the last cell. However, things did not materialize that way to date. So we're in need of continuing and building our new cell, which is underway and seems to be on schedule pretty much. Because of this, originally CBCL had given us a site plan, kind of like what they thought the design may look like, but since then, with the building of the new cell, we've seen that we can't fit that footprint. And there's some things that we would like to change during the design. So we actually met with CBCL, talked about our objectives, looking, a little further down the road. And we've asked for that technical support. So today, a detailed design, CBCL will support approval, tendering, construction, and project closes for the outline budget of $100,000, which we would source from borrowing, and in the anticipation that we could do our construction next year. So in short, I guess, unless you have any questions, it is recommended that council would approve the design and construction for the services of this phase two of the leachate treatment system upgrades to CBCL at an estimated cost, excuse me, of $100,000 as approved in the 2022-23 capital budget.
We don't have an awful lot of options.
Really?
No. Has to be done.
So in this recommendation, sorry,
Sort of.
in this recommendation, it looks like they're recommending we bring those Advantex units offline and just use them as crazy peak flow. So everything's going to just be held in the lagoons
So-
before it goes to the south. Is that right?
They did talk about keeping some of those for polishing purposes, but those haven't been designed up to par like now to meet those flows. So right
Yeah.
now they would relook at the design all over again kind of thing. And
Yeah, no, obviously I'm very distant from this, but my impression of it is that what's getting to those towers now isn't treated to the level it should be. It seems that it's killing everything around it.
it will do that anyway, because
Yeah.
that's leachate,
Yeah.
but the quality of the treatment is not up to par, I would say.
And I think this will rectify it, do you think? Or-
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We just don't have the capacity to treat the volumes that we've created. We were pretty much done the last design after cell two. So we've since done 3A, 4A, we're into 3B. So we don't have the capacity to hold and aerate that we need. So we just need to do some upgrades and we should be good for many years to come, is the plan.
Yes, Chair.
Just on the, not gonna get into anything technical, because it's,
Oh, good.
Well, I want to hear what you know about treating leaching.
yeah, that's the thing, but I am interested, because I was interested to read this week, the article in the paper for Sustain and some
Yes.
progress that they may be making, and they're mentioning here about doing the cell 3D because the Sustain.
Is delayed, yeah.
Is there any sense that there's some progress being made there, other than what I read in the paper? Do we have any inside?
There's very limited what I can say, but as of yesterday, they have signed an agreement. They have an outside investor. I can't get into too much detail.
No, that's what I'm saying, whatever we can
Yeah,
provide.
yeah, they have another investor who's going to move the project forward. They're thinking it's probably 1 year out of full operation still, but they have found they have an investor who's prepared to provide the financial resources required to make them meet their target.
And when is 3D going to be completed?
That should be February or March of 23.
Okay, so we'll still need it even if Sustain gets up and running.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
need it forever anyway.
Yeah, just wanna, gain.
Yeah, if we close the landfill tomorrow morning, we still.
I understand it's a bit of a race right now that the existing cells we have are just gonna be fully at their capacity by the time we cut the ribbon for the new expansion and then putting a load of garbage right in it.
Does that new compactor sort of fit into this scenario as well? Or is it?
Well, it's a little bit different. I mean, it helps reduce the amount of space we're using
That's what I
in
mean.
the cell, but it doesn't really do much about the leachate part.
No, of course not. I know that I'm mixing apples and oranges here, but we're just trying to get a.
So we were lucky enough to be able to actually rent a compactor.
Yes.
So that's saving us. Otherwise, we could have been in big trouble.
Yeah, that's what I heard a couple of times. We
Yeah.
could be in big trouble.
But
Not in big
we're,
trouble,
we
right?
feel quite secure on site that we
Yeah.
can make it until
Yeah.
it's complete, so.
It was an interesting article in Sustain paper that sort of was encouraging. I had a lot of comment on that from people that were wondering. It's nice of people to advise.
It's, it takes longer, but there's progress in sight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It's a little bit off the topic, but
Yeah.
you did mention them in the report.
A little bit.
So you need a motion on
Yes, we do, to accept the recommendations. So move forward. You moved it, Derek?
it? I did.
Moved by Derek and seconded by Floyd. Pam,
So good. Thanks.
discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Thank you.
Thanks, council.
Thank you.
Okay. Uh, 9.1 is primarily all correspondence regarding the Kitty Farm forest request. And I know that that's a map. I mean, it's just a question. We received it, and we'll take that discussion later on in camera. Unless there's something somebody feels necessary to say from. Okay, 10.1, here's some good news. Award announcement, Atlantic Planners Institute, Rural Small Town Planning, Lakeside Zone. Somebody gonna tell us a little more about that? I mean, I heard we won it.
Whole team up.
Yeah.
Team effort, team effort. So I guess this is just, they got a lot of other stuff to bring to us today, so this is a good easy part.
Start with the easy stuff first, yeah. So I guess this, we just wanted to make council aware that the municipality has received an award. And so I guess it's a congratulations to the municipality and council for supporting all the work that was done as part of creating the Lakeside Zone. And as well, I'm super proud of our planning staff.
That's what I was gonna
that
say,
did
yeah.
all the
They-
background work to kind of get the zone in place and then to actually implement it with our first our first lake within the municipality. So it's really nice to be recognized for that work. And so Garth and Emily both were able to attend the Atlantic Planning Institute conference in Charlottetown and accept the award on behalf of the municipalities. And
Something I could have got.
yeah, and so I think there was a note in your pack, but essentially it was the award is from the Atlantic Planners Institute, Awards of Excellence for Rural and Small Town Planning. And so that's the category that the award was given in. And so the award is targeted at small Atlantic Canadian towns, villages, and rural communities who have demonstrated innovative or creative approaches to planning in a more rural context, and specifically, of course, in this case for the lakeside town.
Yeah. Okay, just explain to me, like, I mean, it doesn't, when we were doing it, I mean, I didn't think of it as being outside the box sort of stuff. But
There, well, I mean, there's not everywhere has the level of regulation that we have. I hesitate to call us as like on the absolute cutting edge, but we're amongst that group that's, pushing the envelope in that regard, I would say. So, yeah. And, I mean, exactly how they made the determination as to who got it, don't know. We submitted our information and then they had an award committee that reviewed. So,
That was my question. Was it about the thoroughness of the way you executed it, or was it about the content and the premise behind it?
yeah, in the submission documents, I kind of just laid out what it was, and then the context of Chester as a rural municipality and having gone through the plan review in 2020, and then this ongoing discussion around that. So we didn't get specific feedback as to how they awarded, but I kind of tried to give an overview of what it was in the process we went through with council here. So, yeah, not entirely sure.
Good job.
Yeah, I think, Council, you probably know that not all rural municipalities actually have zoning.
I know, yeah.
To cover their entire municipality, so you were amongst the group at the front end of that. And this particular initiative, I think, is probably not very common in those rural municipalities that do have zoning to cover their entire municipality. So I think it is more unique than you think it is.
Right.
Well, yeah, at the time, I just.
Yeah.
Tina.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, proud of you. Tina.
Thank you. So, full congratulations to staff. When we think back, when there was a request from a couple of the lakes in New Ross, probably 3 years ago now, and there was no zoning in the toolkit at that time, and then that initiated, I think, some further discussion. And then, of course, we had most recently Sherbrooke Lake, who came in with a request, and then there was nothing still. So then, of course, staff went back, just staff really, and did the did the legwork and the research and the municipal planning advisory meetings, all of those steps. So when we think back over those 3 years, it really is a tremendous amount of work. So I thank you, and I know that my community thanks you and Sherbrooke Lake and some of the people that are continuing their interest in seeing this.
Yeah, we can have a model for other projects to take on. Yeah.
Just if I can just comment briefly, I've only been around less than a year. And I continue to be impressed by the work that our planning department does and Garth and the team. Even at our last BAC meeting, I mean, simple meeting, some tough issues, just professionally handled. I'm just so impressed with the work you do. So keep it up. Thank you.
Actually, you stole the words from me, because I know I actually give you guys a pretty hard time. Actually, I'm very consistently impressed with you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And credit to council too. I mean, you're the decision makers at the end of the day. So
Yes, but we need good advice.
it's a team effort.
We're all supposed to.
And did your grandmother know you're getting this award?
No.
No.
Right now.
Yeah.
No, I was talking to her yesterday, she was telling me I was supposed to give you a raise, and I think, now I just have to be sitting next to her.
So just, I guess just to wrap up, we'll try and find a prominent place to
Should
to
we
put
put the
our
word
super,
up there?
so people can see.
Yeah, we want everybody to see it. No, we got it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're at the 9:15 mark. How are you?
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning, council. Good morning, municipal staff. Thank you for having me here. I have a slide clicker here, so I could do it, or I would just ask one of you to click the slides, whatever you prefer.
Whenever you're ready for me to go down.
Okay. I'll present to you community plan, which is a plan that was created by a community through a community group initiative who hired a professional planning firm, Upland Planning and Design, who I'm a part of, to prepare this plan. So just a quick outline on the presentation. I'll just give a quick framing to the context of Hubbard's, then go through the public engagement part, the efforts we've done to engage with the public, and then we'll be presenting on the plan itself that came out of that as a result. So just like to invite you briefly on the next slide to think about what Hubbard's actually is. So Hubbard's has commercial facilities, recreational facilities, there are libraries, there's a library, there are museums in there. There are many important cultural facilities, such as the sailing club and the shore club. And looking at the population of Hubbard's of close to 1,200, it has actually the typical characteristics of a village or a town. And on the next slide, you can see that a little further, that there are numerous institutions and facilities. You know, it has a post office, pharmacies. There are also 2 beaches, lots of different recreational facilities, including a recreation center and a skate park. So all of these pieces of a complete community are in place. The one thing that's different about Hubbard's is that, for one, it is situated at a municipal boundary, so it is half in HRM and half in the district of Chester, and despite this very village town feel that Hubbard's has and all of these amenities that create a complete community, it has very little active transportation infrastructure. So essentially, there's only one short piece, which the municipality of Chester has pioneered to install the first sidewalk in Hubbard's. But nevertheless, so far it's only about half a kilometer and doesn't cover much of the community yet. So that
We're ahead of HRM.
You are ahead of HRM in that respect. Yeah, that's on record. But yeah, the fact that it is actually such a complete sort of village with everything to do, you can cover most of your the needs of your daily life there, but you can't really get around. That really gave rise to a group of very dedicated volunteers from the Hubbard Streetscape project to partner with the Espotogan Heritage Trust. And I would, really like to highlight these people are kind of my planning heroes. They all work regular jobs, so they carved out time from their free time to raise funding, hire a professional planning firm, and create the Hubbard's community plan, which is encompassing both sides, Chester and the Halifax Regional Municipality. And the 2 priorities they have put right away into their plan are improvements in the realm of active transportation, so pedestrian safety mostly, as well as overall community planning. And we'll see in a moment why exactly they've chosen those areas. So let's have a look at all the public engagement that was done to create this plan. So first of all, there is a bit of a history prior to this plan. I think we can go as far as back as when the CFB Mill Cove base closed. The Espotogan Heritage Trust was started, and they partnered with Acadia University to come up with a couple of strategic planning projects for the area. There was something called CAST and DART, creating a stronger tomorrow and developing Espotogan region together. And back then they already, among the outcomes of these plans was that there needs to be a focus on economic development and community design and planning. And that's kind of the legacy that HSP was building on. And when they started getting together in 2019, the first part of their work is they walked along all these streets that are marked in rows here on the map, and knocked at every door, canvassed, and asked questions about what's important to the residents of the community. And the two items that really stood out were active transportation and safety. People really don't feel safe getting around in Hubbards on foot. And the other aspect that came out of these initial discussions is that it's really important for the community to have a plan for growth, because with the highway twinning coming to an end, everyone is expecting that more people will start commuting from Hubbards, that there will be a lot of growth and development. And when you look at these pie charts, you can see that people feel generally positive about growth if there is a plan specific to the community, but they are apprehensive about growth without a plan. So that's why those two pillars, active transportation and community building, were part of it. In terms of the timeline, so we got involved in the project in the spring of 2021, and we started off with a very broad round of formative engagement. There'll be another slide with the various methods we applied to reach out to the public. Following that, in the fall of last year, late summer, fall, we worked on the draft plan, created the draft plan. Then we had a phase of coordination with mostly the provincial government, because the Department of Public Works had some concerns regarding the main street in Hubbards. And after wrapping that up, we published the draft of the plan, allowed the public again to comment on it, and then this summer wrapped it up to create the final version. So just a quick overview. A lot of the public engagement fell into COVID, but we applied numerous online tools and got a really good response rate through, for instance, an online interactive map where people were able to place pins on the map and comment to specific areas. We had online workshops, group discussions, we had focused interview groups, with a youth focus group, for instance. And then we had this collaboration committee with municipal staff on both sides, provincial staff, and the HSP committee members to coordinate and keep everyone in the loop. And then out of that public engagement, again, the same themes came out. So the guiding themes of what we heard back from the community are really summarized in that top line of the slide. So road safety and public placemaking were kind of one very important theme, as well as connectivity to the trail system and the character of development. Everything else on the slide heard a lot of more detailed feedback, but can be essentially summarized to these top themes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the plan that we have created as a result of that. So first of all, we thought a lot of this plan is about active transportation and getting around. But before we get there, let's have a look at what kind of community would the residents of Hubbards actually like to see in the future. And based on the feedback that we heard, as well as some background research, first of all, we came up with a structure plan that intentionally ignored the municipal boundary and looked more at Hubbards, the way it functions, right? So we realized there is a community center with small lots that have been there for a long time that kind of built around the former railway station. We identified one area that we called the rural Main Street. We identified some areas for medium density residential developments and affordable housing and housing that suits needs of an aging population has become an issue as anywhere in Atlantic Canada, really. So we created that community structure, community vision map first. And based on that, we started looking at where are the centers of activity and what are actually desired connections where people would like to get from A to B. And based on that, we realized kind of there is a set of priorities in terms of the active transportation infrastructure in Hubbards. First of all, because of the geography of the cove, you really only have one connection along St. Margaret's Bay Road that creates the backbone of all pedestrian traffic pretty much, right? Then the second priority is to get them really all around the cove, essentially from the sailing club to the shore club. So to get these shores figured out. And then there are all kinds of additional links after that. For instance, on the Chester side, that's Highway 329. That we have identified as an additional route in need of AT improvements.
Yeah.
And out of that kind of needs analysis, we have created something called the 6 big moves in the Hubbard's community plan that we recommend to be implemented. So one is the Hubbard's Loop. So there's a trail, Runner's Trail going through Hubbard's. But what we learned through the community engagement, that's great for recreational purposes, but it's not really great for utilitarian purposes and daily errands, because it's set back, it's not lit, it's relatively remote. So people don't feel comfortable sending their children to school on the trail necessarily, right? Especially now in the time of the year when days are getting short. So we would like to kind of double the trail and lead a branch of the trail through the community, also to get those bicycle tourists onto the main street and create some economic activity along St. Margaret's Bay Road. Cove connections, there are proposals in the plan how to connect the shoreline along Hubbard's Cove to the community. On the HRM side, there's a proposal for a boardwalk. On Fox Point Front Road, I know there's activity from the municipality, so we leave it up to Chester to continue that path and figure out how to deal with Fox Point Front Road. Placemaking is also very important, because pedestrian routes shouldn't only be safe, but it's also important that they're actually attractive, that it gives people a reason to get out and some places to go to and mingle with neighbors. We also introduced some interim measures, proposed sidewalks extensions, and development policies as part of these big moves. There's a phasing to it as well, proposed in the plan with cost estimates. The full document with all of that is situated on onehubbards.org if you want to look this up in more detail. So phases 2 and 4 have especially aspects of infrastructure that are on the Chester side. So that is that aforementioned trail extension, as well as the Fox Point Front Road and Route 329 improvements. Let's have a look at a bit more details. We came up, first of all, with a couple of planning principles. This is just one slide showing 2 of them. So for instance, one of the principles of good active transportation planning is to shorten the distance pedestrian have to walk in order to cross a street. So with bump outs on street corners, when you bump out sidewalks, you narrow down the distance that pedestrians need to cross, and it's also a very important visual cue for drivers to know that there is pedestrian traffic. Also, by squaring up intersections, avoiding these awkward angles that you have in some locations in Hubbard's, it makes intersections safer. It's easier to see all the sides as a driver. So there were numerous other principles we have detailed in the plan, and then based on that, we actually created the first conceptual draft of what St. Margaret's Bay Road could look like. So we're focusing on the Chester side here today. So we suggest to mark the entrance to the community at the trail crossing and upgrade the trail crossing in a way that the parking is more formalized there, and to install a median island that serves as a gateway and really clearly shows to drivers that they're entering a zone that is different, because there's a lot of research out there that speed limits are actually not as effective in slowing down drivers as the physical environment. It's more important to actually create an environment where drivers realize I should better be going slow here, because the highway kind of ends and I'm entering into a community. So we find these gateway islands are very important to convey that. Then extensions to the existing sidewalk, the mentioned bump outs that make the crossings at intersections closer, Fox Point Front Road, we kind of left it open what exactly happens here because we know the municipality has plans in the works to work on that road. And especially on the next slide where Fox Point Front Road comes out by the Sailing Club to Route 329. We're kind of still waiting for the municipal studies to be finalized to figure out what exactly can happen there. But another of these gateway items, a median, we suggest in front of the Sailing Club on Route 329 to also have a visual cue for drivers to slow down and have a safer crossing there for children coming from the parking lot to the club. So that summarizes the AT improvements. So also on the community planning side, I realized Chester has just gone through a municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw update not too long ago. But for the, these updates need to be typically done every 5 to 10 years. So the next time you go through the exercise, we also, based on that community structure we have created, have some suggestions on how possibly to look at the zoning. So, so the first, a very important part of the community structure we have identified is the community center. This is because the lots have historically been subdivided very small in a way that couldn't be done with provincial regulations nowadays. And they have essentially grown around the old railway station, and you have this like very kind of compact look and feel of the community where you have the potential to create this very vibrant main street as you see it, for instance, in Home Bay. So that would be, for instance, one area that we recommend receives a bit of a different zoning. Then the rest of St. Margaret's Bay Road and Highway number 3 in the areas that show up in yellow. Those we would also recommend certain design requirements for businesses which are stipulated in the plan. Then the next area would be trailfront residential. So that's an interesting one. It's perhaps a little bit outside of the box and not something that has been done much in Atlantic Canada. But because of the suggestions from the public, we have heard that the trail is really not that good for utilitarian use because it doesn't feel very safe. We suggest that if development on lands along the trail happens, there would be a design requirement to have the front of residential buildings to front on the trail and create the natural supervision. So the area becomes more vibrant and just feels more looked at. Finally, so there were 8 community areas in total that we have recommended. I'll just point out one more, is the medium density residential designation in that plan. So this is an area that we have earmarked could accommodate more higher kind of medium density housing development, because we did hear in the engagement that there's a really strong need for that. A lot of people are looking to downsize from single family dwellings. So there need to be option of maybe some kind of clustered cottage housing or small apartment buildings that are designed in a way that they really feel that they really fit the look of Hubbard's. So that summarizes the plan and the engagement efforts. And I think we have online some members of the Streetscape project in the line who would actually like to address council as well with a call for action resulting out of this plan. So I will hand it over to them at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for councilors for taking the time today to meet with us. I know your time is valuable and we want to respect that. We have 4 questions we're hoping to ask you that are at the end of the slideshow, which I'm assuming you may have in front of you as well. During COVID, at a time when so many of us were so isolated, it was nothing short of extraordinary that our community came together and really engaged in this activity over the last 2 years. This plan really reflects what the community desires, wants, and needs, and sees as vision. It's not fully engineered. We understand it's not all the way down the road, and it might be unusual for a not-for-profit to kind of surface and helm this. But these are some really engaged citizens who are excited about the future of their community. I've got 4 questions to ask you, and I understand you might not be able to answer them in full at the moment, but I'll ask them regardless. We understand that it's not common for a plan like this to be completely adopted by a municipality, but we're wondering what the municipality can do to endorse our community's vision and plan.
I don't know if I can answer that or not, but I mean, it's a great plan. It's very comprehensive. I mean, will we ask our planning staff to look at it, see how it fits within our current land use bylaw structure and where we're going? I know that we're looking at a growth strategy for the area anyway, because of the twinning of the highways and all that sort of stuff. So will we incorporate this in those discussions? Of course we will. You know that we are working with highways currently. So we would want to be as consistent as possible with the plan, I would expect, you know, when we do make decisions to move forward with any of those projects. Just before you came in, you were sitting here, we're just about to get into the budget process, the strategic planning process. When you're talking about a municipality like Chester, there's a lot to all of that. So will we try to fit this in and figure it out? Yes. Can I tell you the time frame? No. You know, I mean, that's just, but I don't know if that answers it, but it's as best I can do, I think.
No, and I'm so glad you brought up to the collaboration with the active transportation teams and staff at Public Works, because during this process, we built a committee and met with them several times.
Yeah.
They have reviewed the plan and they see the elements as being doable, possible. Some novel, but all within what the community probably needs. This included senior staff at Public Works, area managers, and AT staff from both municipalities, which was amazing.
Yeah, so when we make decisions moving forward on what we will or won't be doing, we will most certainly take your plan into consideration. That would be crazy not to.
My second question to you is, can the municipality create some sort of an internal action plan with timelines? I mean, you mentioned budgeting there, but timelines and responsibilities. This is done between recess and lunch and after the kids go to bed for many of us. Councillor Vino, I was told specifically not to say that Eva's in the next room doing a practice assessment, but here we are. Is it possible for council to action some sort of responsibilities to a person in the municipality?
I can't answer that. That's a decision council would have to make, and it would be part of our strategic plan process. You know, like what resources are we going to replace where, and we haven't had that discussion for next year yet. So it's not as simple as I can say yes or no.
I'm also very privileged and fortunate that I purchased a piece of land that is on the Chester side some 5 years ago, you know, near my family, and I'm excited for the day that my daughters can safely get to the library on their own. But we're wondering too, and we found Halifax has a much slower, arduous process to get anywhere. And is it possible to build infrastructure on the Chester side in the near future? Like, could we see an action on the 329 back or the Fox Point Front Road in the next year or two?
You know where we are with that better than I do.
Well, I think I can't speak for council, but I think it's possible. We're going to have discussions on those fact issues. And I know Gordon's been working closely with the group, possibly than I have. You guys have done a lot of work. But I will continue to have a voice here at the table to try to make some of those things happen. I can't promise they will, but you know that my voice is here, and moving forward, those discussions will be at the table.
Yeah.
What the final result will be, I can't answer because we haven't made decisions. But I will be here to speak for this plan and parts of it moving forward.
Yeah. And I just say that as much as we can, we'll try to do it. It's just that there's a lot to do.
There's a lot in this plan. There's a lot in this plan, and I think maybe what Matt is asking, some things that maybe we can do to keep the plan moving forward and keep it alive. And people see some things happening, and I think we'll try to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Matt, what infrastructure are you referring to particularly? Infrastructure covers a lot of
In terms of the 329 and the Fox Point Front Road, some of the things that are suggested in the plan are sidewalks, AT sort of paths that can be accessible to walkers, cyclists, or people who are strolling or in wheelchairs. There's plenty of low-hanging fruit, like squaring up intersections, narrowing current crossings so they're not 30 or 40 paces long. I know, well, I can't really speak to the feasibility study. I was in those meetings where it was spoken that potentially a Fox Point Front Road could see a one-way or something. But those are some of those low-hanging fruit also in the plan.
A lot of those things I know for, actually, I tried to already on the back road to get that narrowed because it's a trunk 329 and a main highway for big trucks. That can't be done because big trucks can't come down that road and make that turn if we narrow it in too much. So I know highways has certain, all kinds of guidelines and plans of their own rules of, or I'll give an example, the Sailing Club tried to get a crosswalk there. It doesn't meet their guidelines, so it can't happen. We tried, we have the money to do it. We want to do it, we can't do it. Speed limit, sight lines, traffic, all kind of route reasons. So, I mean, each one of these requests has to get affected and approved by highways and approved by council. So it's a process to make these things happen. It's the simplest way I can put it.
And what we found discouraging, not that it's on the Chester side, but when crosswalk was removed, the temporary one we had for the sailing event and met the minimum requirements for the event, but no longer was safe enough for adult world-class athletes, but was not safe enough for the children who have a bus stop there or go to the library, which is unfortunate.
That gives you some of the understanding. The same as I look at some of the
We can want to do it all we want.
Yeah, exactly. We would, our sincere hope is we understand the highway is a secondary route for moving traffic through, but the people of Hubbards would would prefer that the trucks take their time instead of being moved through quickly. My final question for you folks is this is a weird situation. I can throw a stone to the other side of the county line, and the community really came together in this idea of being one Hubbards. Is there anything that, or any possibility, a way that you can coordinate with the boundary crossing activities with HRM?
Oh, I think there is. If we both agree on moving forward with a particular project, I mean, we obviously would collaborate. I can't see why we wouldn't. I don't know what the relationship between our staff and HRM staff is, but I mean, I certainly know who represents your district. I've met them. I mean, if there's projects that we can work together on, of course, I can't imagine why we wouldn't cooperate with each other.
I sincerely hope that the support we've heard from council so far, even in helping to support creating a sidewalk from the Highway 3 to the entrance of the barn, that was incredible. That was amazing. We couldn't be more thankful that now folks can safely come in and not be in traffic. I sincerely hope that Halifax takes your nod on that. And
I assume you're making this presentation to HRM or in communication in some fashion with them. So.
Absolutely. We've scheduled presentations with community CPED, the economic development. And then we've also scheduled with I believe it's a standing committee with active transportation, but those are coming in the next 2 weeks.
So once you've done that, I may reach out and just say, we should work together where we can.
Perfect.
Yes, Andre.
I'll just make a few comments. Firstly, this is a good report and a thorough report, and I respect obviously the huge amount of time that paid consultants and volunteers have put into creating this. The concern and the challenge I think we face as a council is that transportation, which is the focus of this report, can't be looked at in isolation. I think Hubbards is a unique community in Nova Scotia where we have a twinning of a highway that's going to put unprecedented development pressure on this community. So what we have today as Hubbards is going to be much different, I believe, than the Hubbards of 20 years from now. How that rolls out, that hasn't been decided. And it's a function of many things besides transportation. It's a function of our zoning. It's a function of how we service it. It's a function of transportation. It's a function of many cultural factors. So we have to weigh all those in. And so we can't, perhaps these are good suggestions. And I think this is something that we will look to as we move forward. But could we say today, oh, we're going to take these ideas and run with them? I think we can't do that because there's so many decisions that haven't been made yet that will shape the future of Hubbards. We have to have those discussions. We've talked here at council, maybe within the last 6 months, about servicing in Hubbards. And, I don't think that conversation's complete. If Hubbards were to be serviced by central sewer, it'll transform that community. A lot of the ideas in this plan revolve around the idea of allowing transportation from single family homes to occur in a more radio environment. But the current economic climate in Nova Scotia is that single family homes are out of reach for regular folks. And that's why we're seeing a huge boom in multi-unit housing and less activity in single family construction. So those all have to be weighed in, and as a council, we're deliberating on these topics, but we haven't made any decisions. So I think this is a great report, a great report, and very useful for us as we think about the future of Hubbards. But I don't think we can today say, yes, we must do all these things, because there's so many knobs we have to turn that we don't even know yet what the future of Hubbards looks like.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned the development. We're finding that, we're approaching the developers in the community, the 4 we know of so far. My neighboring property has 14 fourplexes going in on it. We're finding that when we go to these developers, they're excited to know the community has a vision. But you're right, there are other factors to consider.
I mean, even tonight, it's all about land use policy in the Hubbards area. So,
Yeah.
Yes, Tina.
Thank you. Hi, Matt. Sorry for the side of my head. I think Councillor Wells and I are the only ones that don't have the opportunity to look in the direction of where you are, but I prefer to look towards you, if you don't mind. But when you mentioned that your words just now around the community vision and developers, being engaged and excited that you have a community vision, I wholeheartedly jump in on that thought because I congratulate you in terms of the whole exercise around community engagement, looking through the past years with the CAST and the DART exercises way back when, with the closure of the base, I think, is when CAST, was that correct, Floyd? Yes. So it's important to do that, and it still is relevant, and the points that were brought forward at that time to get us to today. I'm looking at the thematic analysis in your slideshow, in your PowerPoint presentation. And when I think about the green space and the street beautification, community identity, recreation, and all of those things as well, in addition to the fact that we've talked about active transportation, sidewalks, and the road redesign and so on, I think that you are so ahead of so many communities, because again, the communities work at their own speed. I get that. But in terms of having a community plan, and again, it's not always about going after those funding opportunities. However, when there are funding opportunities available and you're ready and you have projects in mind, whether it be through Develop Nova Scotia, or does Develop Nova Scotia even exist? I'm trying to think if they're dissolved now or not. They're okay, Develop Nova Scotia, but provincially and federally, those pots of funding opportunities for community development. I'm really looking forward to what you are going to do today, tomorrow, and into the next years to come with us as your municipal government, or one of your 2 municipal governments. But I'm sincerely thrilled with what you've done, and I've been following the progress. I have been, and I congratulate you. So,
Thank you. It's been a team of families, but I appreciate your kudos. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments at this moment in time? No?
No, just again, thank you, Matt, and the whole team that did this job, and got to do where we are today. And I think there'll be some positive things happen coming out in the future. I think we've seen a few already as a result of the strategic plan and the group that got together. So we'll continue to work on it and try to move forward the best we can. And thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, councilors.
Okay, we're gonna take a